Welcome to the podcast, everyone. Today we're diving into a fascinating topic that intersects the realms of technology, creativity, and personal growth. We're exploring a cool Python library called chonky, which helps us break text into meaningful semantic chunks. But before we jump into that, let me share a personal story that sets the stage. When I think back to my early days in writing and programming, it's almost like a glimpse into a different universe. I remember being about 13 or 14, sitting in a basement that could only be described as a mini Bond villain's lair. It was dark, somewhat eerie, and filled with these alien-looking machines. Can you picture it? There were massive CPUs, disk drives, and a card reader all lined up under harsh fluorescent lights. Well, that was me at the IBM 1401, an ancient piece of tech that our school was using for what was then called data processing. And speaking of writing, I didn't craft essays like most students. My work consisted of these short stories. Honestly, they were pretty awful. Picture characters who had strong feelings, like really strong feelings, but hardly any plot to carry them. I thought that made them deep, but in hindsight it was just, well, confusing. It's interesting how early experiences like that shape our skills over time. So, back to chonky. Imagine if I had a toolkit that could help me dissect my rambling stories into coherent chunks. That's exactly what chonky does. It segments text intelligently using a fine-tuned transformer model. For those not deep into the technical weeds, think of transformers as advanced AI that understands context in text, making it easier to comprehend and process. Let's break it down a bit. Why is chunking text important? Well, have you ever tried to read a long piece of writing and found your mind wandering halfway through? It's tough. By breaking text into smaller, meaningful portions, we're enhancing clarity and focus. This is essential not just in programming, but in any form of communication, including our daily conversations and presentations. Now, think about this. What if we could apply this to our everyday lives? How could we chunk our thoughts or ideas to communicate more effectively? For instance, when preparing for a big presentation, instead of overwhelming our audience with information, we could distill our ideas into smaller, digestible segments. It's like breaking down a recipe into steps instead of listing all the ingredients and instructions at once. As we wrap this up, consider how tools like chonky not only aid in programming or data processing, but also inspire us to refine our communication skills. It's all about finding the right pieces and connecting them in meaningful ways, whether in technology or personal storytelling. So the next time you sit down to write or present, ask yourself, how can I chunk my ideas better? By the way, if you have any thoughts on this or personal stories about your writing or tech experiences, we'd love to hear from you. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, keep chunking your thoughts and communicating beautifully.